Good morning, multipliers. How are you guys today? And today's a special episode because we want you guys to get to know us better. What makes us tick? What makes us who we are? So today I'm going to tell you guys my testimony. Judah, she'll do hers in another day. When it works into the schedule and everything, what we're doing. But tonight we were just kind of talking about. We're like, let's do this. Let's just talk about our testimony. This isn't mine in particular, and I tell you, I was born a PK, pastor's kid. If you don't know that, PK, pastor's kid, that's what that abbreviation is. And my dad's been a pastor at where we're at now for like 23 years, going on 23 years. Before he's been a pastor for like 30-something years total. And so I was obviously raised in a Christian home. Before you go and you think to yourself, okay, standard Christian testimony, click off, just bear with me because there's a lot of stuff you may not know. So my family, I'm the youngest of four. My oldest brother has a disability called Prader-Willi syndrome. That's where his stomach and his brain never communicate necessarily properly, so he's always hungry. Food dominates his life. He's mentally handicapped on top of that. So there was challenges that arose with that of learning to be patient with someone like that, and who doesn't necessarily understand, doesn't try to do things bad. It's part of who he is that he steals food and come in our room and take things. And so there was a lot of things there. My mom and dad, my dad, like I said, is a pastor, and so we grew up in the church. Church wasn't just an aspect of our life, it was our life. I mean, we were at church constantly. Church was constantly discussed. God was discussed in our home. And so growing up, I always realized that and understood that. And I remember when it became real that I needed a relationship with Christ. And I was 6 years old, driving with my dad on the way to some church function. And I felt like I needed to become a Christian. I needed to know what God's plan was for me. I needed to know that God was my Savior. And I prayed this prayer, and my dad did it with me, and everything. And I prayed it, but it didn't change my heart. I was 6 years old, didn't really understand the gravity of what I was doing. And life kind of continued on that path up till about sixth grade. Now, as I'd said previously, I'm the youngest of four. My dad's a pastor. Church is our life. And when I was in sixth grade, probably the single hardest year of my life. We had been at church for a number of years. My best friends were at my church. Everything was basically run through the circuit because it was our life. It was our social group. And then some people at my church and some of them were people who were my friends' parents and everything, decided that they didn't want my dad to be the pastor there anymore. And it hurt really, really, really bad. And then on top of that, my grandma Foster, who we were really, really close with, she passed away of cancer, and it was a long battle. So there was a lot of things. My dad was gone during this already really emotional time. He was gone to deal with this issue of her sickness, and then eventually with her passing. And then another time, and then a few weeks later, actually, my Uncle Terry on my mom's side, that was my dad's grandma, this is my mom's brother, committed suicide. And so here was my uncle, who I was incredibly close with also, who ended up committing suicide, leaving us so young. And it was very, very painful for my entire family. It destroyed my grandma. It broke us. So, here I am, I'm sixth grade, my social group, my friends I feel like are crashing down on me, this pain of everybody I know now, like who's my friends now. And then the death of my family members and everything, and it was this incredibly, incredibly horrible time in my life. I remember I didn't realize at the time, but I sunk into a depression. And I wasn't good at school, and I suffered through it. And I felt like I was dumb, and there's a bug here. I felt like I was dumb, and all these other things, and like I was struggling through life. And then that pretty much continued up till about freshman year in high school, and I was this kind of weird, goofy kid who kind of smelled a little bit. Probably, I'm assuming, boys do at that age, but I think I was, I was a smelly kid. Let's just face it. And And I went and when I got to high school, I started to realize that I could be kind of cool. I didn't have to be this guy anymore. So I started playing basketball, and I made friends in that. And there was all this stuff going on. I was striving to be the best basketball player. My dream was to be in the NBA. I was going to play in the NBA. And I wasn't very good, but I tried really hard. And I started doing all this stuff. And then I remember it was about second part of sophomore year. I had finished basketball for the second year, and I just didn't have energy for anything anymore. I hated myself. I hated everything that I was. I hated being this guy who I felt like nobody liked. I looked at my family, my brother, my oldest brother with his disability. I looked at him. I thought to myself, man, he's doing all these great things with his life, even past what his disabilities are. My older brother and sister are both incredible people who are very hard to live up to. And I looked at my brother and I saw that he was like Mr. Future Business Leader of America, FBLA, and from Missouri and all this stuff. And there was all these things they were doing that were so great. And I wanted to be them. I wanted to be like them. I wanted to be something special. And I just didn't feel special. I felt quite to the contrary, actually. And I remember just sitting there looking at myself and thinking, man, I'm just a parasite to the world. Nobody wants to be to love me. Nobody needs to love me. I'm horrible. I thought I would be, and that ideal lived with me for a very long time. Pretty much all the way through to my junior year, I just hated everything who I was, every piece of who I was. I'd get in fights with my mom, and then eventually I started to turn my eyes to maybe the world would be better without me. Maybe I didn't even need to be here. Maybe it'd be better for my mom and dad, my brothers and sisters, for the world if Daniel Gibson wasn't a part of it. And I remember that hatred of myself growing and growing and growing. And my hatred for the church was a lot right then. I mean, I still loved God in a sense, but I didn't, because I was so mad at him because of all the pain of the places, the stuff he'd put me through being a pastor's kid. And I was so mad that all this stuff happened and that nobody seemed to like me. I didn't really have a lot of friends and all this stuff. I just felt horrible about myself. And I was like, God, you made a mistake. And then I basically midway through my junior year, I decided I was going to end my life. I had a bad argument with my mom and dad, my mom especially, and I said, that's it. And I wrote a letter to my mom and my dad apologizing for my existence into the world. I said, I'm sorry, I'm a parasite. It's better off without me. And I took off my belt and I wrapped it around my neck and I got ready to hang myself. I was going to do it. I was going to be done and save everybody the stupidity, as I thought, or the parasite that I thought was Daniel Gibson. And then, as I was doing it, I broke down and I fell to my knees and I was just reminded of all these things I've been told about my whole life. About Jesus, and that he died on the cross for me, and that he had a plan for my life. A plan for good, not for evil. A plan that he designed me, that he willed me. I'm like, all right, G. I got on my knees, tears running down my face, and I said, God, I don't know what to do. I've tried, and I've tried, and I've tried, and I've tried, and I just fail. I know what you say, and if that's true, come into my life and make me yours, and become the Lord of my life. And you know, that moment was the moment in my life when everything changed. I called my mom, and she was out at an event, and something I called her. I said, Mom, you need to come home. And I did the hardest thing I've ever had to do, which was to tell my mom and my dad that I hated myself. I remember the shame that flowed through my body, the feeling of just hurt, and feeling like I let them down. I remember it vividly. And but you know what happened through that was that God began to show me that I had worth. That even though life by myself seemed hopeless, I wasn't designed to be by myself. I was designed to serve him, and I had the opportunity to do that whenever I went to El Salvador on a mission trip with my family. And I'm there in El Salvador, and I'm going there, and all of a sudden as I'm there, I expected to go there and do nothing, just kind of walk around, and my dad would do all the talking, and I'd just be along for the ride. And as I was, my dad, the first day they called me and said, Daniel, you're gonna go out and you're gonna lead a team. And I was like, well, what does that mean? And they're like, no, you're gonna go out and you're gonna knock on doors and you're gonna talk to people about God. And I was like, so I go to my dad, like, what do I do? And so I take out my little pocket Bible, and he highlights a bunch of verses for me that was like, a few, kind of the Romans Road, essentially, if you know what that is, just a few verses of salvation. And there I went, and I went out and I knocked on my first door, and I remember I tried to say John 3:16, and I stumbled through it, the verse I've known since I was a little boy, and I couldn't say it, and yet luckily I had a great interpreter who made up for my shortcomings, and that lady, she came to know God. She accepted Christ, and she she was there and she showed, and I remember in that moment of being just like elated. I couldn't believe that this lady had listened to what I said, and that she was willing to listen and to take it and to make faith. And so I was so excited. And I went and knocked on every door I could, and I was telling people about Christ. And then the next day I got to go to schools, public schools in El Salvador, and talk to whole classrooms full of kids. And I was seeing full classrooms worth of kids raising their hands saying, I want to follow Jesus. And I was like, holy mackerel, this is the most exciting thing I've ever done in my life. These people, and I remember going to my dad and be like, Dad, we just had 20 kids. Oh, no, 10 more kids, 5 more kids. All this stuff was happening. I was just blown away in excitement of what God was doing. And I remember on that trip, at the end of it, I was emotional as I was standing up there because we were kind of giving our goodbyes, and I started crying. I said, you all don't know what you've done for me. That by being here, you've unleashed something in me, and you've made me a better person. And I accepted my call to ministry. That I knew that was what I needed to do the rest of my life, was tell people about Christ. And then shortly after that, in fact, actually, I got the opportunity to become the youth leader at my church. My youth pastor left, and he was instrumental in my life in changing and challenged me not just to have faith, but to have my own faith. Not just to accept what was told, what my parents said, but really, truly learn what it meant to me. And he would challenge me on simple things and complex things, and I grew in my faith exponentially. And then the second half of junior year, I met my friend Michael. And Michael changed my life in a huge way. Morty knows, we've kind of fallen out of contact with each other. He got married and moved to West Virginia. But that guy and me, we sat in my office because I was a youth pastor, and I sat there and we challenged each other. Said we'd ask a question and we'd go deeper, and my faith grew so exponentially in that time. And God did so much in my life, and I began to just truly make my faith my own. And it was amazing. And the thing, guys, what I'm trying to get at here is that, when I first accepted my relationship with Christ and all these things, it wasn't like instantaneously everything changed in my life. Like in that moment, everything was okay. I still had a lot of anger issues. I had a lot of pain in my life. I had a lot of questions I needed answered. But it set me on a journey of learning and seeking and finding what God really had for me in my life, of discussion and deepening my faith. And through that, I began, as I said, I started preaching there at like 16 years old when I got saved. As I started preaching, I remember my first sermons, and I remember everything, and it was just incredibly nerve-wracking and scary getting up and talking in front of people. And then, but gradually got easier and easier, and I still get really, really nervous. But God's grown me so much through the time. And the thing is, guys, in my life, I thought that I had no value. I thought that I was worthless and without anything. But God saw something in me. And we talk about that a lot with that he, where it talks about in Psalms that he wove us together, and that, Jeremiah, they says that he has plans for our good, not for our evil, that he has a plan for our life, essentially. And those things, they seem hollow when you hear them from people. You know what I mean? You think yourself, sure, yeah. But the thing is, it's real. And I can say it with 100% certainty that God has changed my life. That I would not be here in front of this camera if it was not for Jesus. If it was not for God being the Lord of my life, I would not be here at all. He gave me hope and a reason to keep living. And, maybe you find yourself in a place like me. Maybe you think you're not worth anything. Maybe you think you have no hope in this world, or that you were in an accident, that God just messed up on you and there's no hope for who you are. Or that, there's so many things, but God made you. He designed you with a purpose for life and for good. And the thing is, guys, I looked at the church and I was mad because they hurt me, they hurt my family. But you know what? God taught me to love through that. When I met my wife, my beautiful, beautiful wife, Judah, she was a woman who I fell in love with instantaneously. I loved Judah from the moment I saw her. But her heart wasn't necessarily mine when I first saw her. And I remember pursuing her and seeking her, and she was like, okay, I think you're cool, I guess, and stuff. But it wasn't. It took her a while to realize what was going on, and to fall in love with me like the way I loved her. And I remember that time was hard, and I realized though that's what it's like to love the church. That God's love for the church is that we're this bride that rebels and seeks and gives their hearts to another maybe or something. There's all this pain that happens that we're designed for Him, but we don't do it. And the thing is, guys, that's what it's like. And I tell you right now, in your life, you may be suffering, you may be in pain, you may have all these things, but seek God. Make Him the Lord of your life, because literally everything else in this world comes up void. It'll leave you sad, sick, lonely, and in pain, just like I was. But God is hope. And He is something real and tangible that seriously, that helps us get through every day, to walk through life in a great way. And so what I like to say, guys, is this. If you have questions about faith, put them in the comments down below. If you feel like you don't want to do that, you're afraid to put them out there like that, private message me on here. You can message me on Twitter privately. You can DM me. You can find me on Instagram, anything. There's also a link in the description down below for a thing called The Story that goes through the plan of salvation. If you have questions on there, those questions aren't going to go to some random person. Those will actually come to me, and I'll be able to help you through them. So I challenge you, seek God today. Seek Him. Seek what He has for you. Make your relationship real, because, guys, I don't want to see you wither away in this world like I was. Find God, seek God, make a relationship with Him beyond what you can imagine, beyond what you can do in this world by yourself, because you were designed with a purpose to do His bidding, to be His servant. And that's where true joy is found. So I've rambled on enough. I appreciate you guys. I hope that this makes you get to know me a little bit better. Maybe understand what we're doing here. This multimedia is where I feel called as a ministry to be. This is, and to do all this, and it's to be kingdom focused and all this stuff. And I feel like for that to work, you guys have to know my heart. And so I hope you enjoyed this. Maybe God touched your heart a little bit. Maybe He challenges you to go deeper. But know that as it says in Psalm 37, the steps of a godly man are ordered by the Father. Though he may fall, he will not fall headlong, because His hand is there to catch him. And step in the Lord, and He'll step with you. And that's the most beautiful, heartwarming, comforting thing I could ever tell you in this world. To step in the Lord and walk with Him. Guys, I appreciate you watching this. If you like this video, hit that thumbs up. Let me know you enjoyed it. And that way I know that you maybe want to see some more of these and stuff like this, and let us know. And then if you'd like to see all of our other content, hit that subscribe button so you get to see everything as soon as it comes out, that you get notified when it comes out, everything like that. And as always, guys, I'm Dan, Jude behind the camera. And God bless. We'll see you next time.